I'm riding the European Divide Trail from the trailhead up in frozen shores of northern Norway, through the vast wilderness of Finland and down to the deep forests around the Arctic Circle in Sweden. This time around I'm joined by a new friend, Jan from Germany, who's also riding the EDT. I ride through some very picturesque landscapes and stumble upon a couple of sketchy roads along the EDT. Join me as I make my way south along the gravel roads of northern Sweden in the search for that fantastic camp spot at the end of the day. Good morning and welcome to day 5 of my tour here along the European Divide Trail. It's been raining pretty much all throughout the night, and I also have a couple of friends inside of my tent here. But it looks like the sun has risen again, so I'm eager and interested to go outside and see what it looks like and see how many mosquitoes are going to attack me in the morning here. Well, anyway, after I packed down this very wet tent, or the outer tent at least, I'm going to head the last couple of kilometers into the next little town here called Junosvando and visit the local ICA supermarket. I both need to pick up some supplies and also charge one of my power banks. I don't have that much power left, so I have one of these very fast charging power banks. I'm gonna charge that while I sit outside and eat. And I also need to take care of the water situation. I hope they have some toilet or some place where I can fill up my bottles there. And yesterday I crossed the halfway point of this trip, which means today I get to spoil myself with a pair of new socks and a new t-shirt. This is the mighty Torne River that later on marks the border between Sweden and Finland. Here's the ICA supermarket. So supermarkets like this one are basically your best friend when you're on a long backpacking trip like this one. And while I'm having my breakfast here and doing my shopping inside, I'm charging up 2 of my power banks here on the back side of the store, and I was able to fill up my water bottles inside. After talking to a guy who worked in there, I used their kitchen to fill up my water bottles, and he was pretty interested in finding out what type of trip I was doing. So I told him about where I started and so on, and he told me that they do get a lot of people going through here since the European Divide Trail was created. So it's a good thing for these communities to have the EDT going through them, because keeps these places alive. As I mentioned earlier, the next supermarket is probably in about 100 kilometers from here, and I'm likely not going to make it there before they close for the evening. So I've basically been planning this trip for a long time, and I've done a list of all of the supermarkets and their opening times and so on, and the distances between each of the supermarkets, and I put a link to the list down in the description below, so you can download it if you need it for your own trip later on. So these things are great when you're on a bikepacking trip here in Scandinavia. You can find these in a lot of flavors and different brands and so on. But the only problem with these ones is they are very bulky, and if you want to fit them inside of your bags, you're gonna have a big problem. So I have a little hack that I do. I take the contents of this and then pour it into a Ziploc bag like this one, and I brought along a lot of Ziploc bags, believe me. So that way I can compress the contents of this into only a small fraction of this one, and then I have a collapsible mug that I use later on when I want to make lunch. I think I've showed you that earlier on here. So I'm just gonna open this up, and I know exactly how much water these ones need. They need like 2.5 deciliters of water. So I pour the contents into the Ziploc bag like this. Make sure all the air goes out. And voila! This one compared to this one. And then I just throw this away in the trash bin over there. I just noticed a funny thing here going out of this town. See that thing over there out on the field? I know what that is because I've worked with those a couple of years ago. We use those to collect dust from the air around, because I work in a mining company. But I think here they use them for collecting bugs, because you can see there's a green thing at the bottom there, which I'm guessing the mosquitoes really love. So I'm guessing that they have these sort of collectors to catch mosquitoes and get a sort of a picture on how many mosquitoes there are this season. Pretty interesting. This guy just passed me when I was taking photos of the beautiful flowers here. He's called Jan and he's from Germany, and he's also doing the EDT. Want to tell me a little bit about you and your trip?
Hi, I'm Jan from Germany, and 46 years old. Normally I'm working as a health and safety officer on construction sites in Germany.
Okay.
And yes, for 3 months ago I take the decision to have a ride, to do some holiday, and now I'm here. Yes.
How long are you planning on being out for?
4 weeks.
4 weeks?
Yes.
Okay. I'll let you go so I don't slow you down.
No, everything's fine.
So how has it been so far, you think?
Oh, it's right. It's quite good weather.
Yeah.
Have one time I have rain, a little bit snow, but mostly it's fine.
It was nice that we got the rain this night.
Yes.
So it was clear and blue skies in the morning,
Yes,
right?
yes. Yesterday I have a little luck with the ferry.
Yeah.
The ferry didn't ride, so
Okay.
but there was a guy who picked me up with a small boat and everything fine.
I took the cheating shortcut, so I missed out on the ferry.
Ah, okay.
I was a bit tired yesterday, so
and for me, today it's only 80 kilometers.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, short day.
Yes, short day. So.
Yeah. How long of days do you usually do?
120, 140.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been averaging like 140 per day or so.
Okay.
But I have a bit wider tires maybe than you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jan, for your presentation, and good luck on the rest of your trip.
You too.
So I just said goodbye to Jan there from Germany. I rode with him for about 30 kilometers, and gotta say that was one of the easiest 30 kilometers I've done on this trip. Really nice guy, and we had a lot of things to discuss along the road. And even though I love being on these solo trips, it's always nice to have someone to talk to along the road. And yeah, I got a lot of funny stories from him, and I wish him the best for his future travels here until he gets down to his hometown in Germany in about 4 weeks. And just as I said goodbye to Jan, it seems like the gravel roads are starting again up here in front. So Jan told me he has his own company, so he can go on these types of trips, and he rides his bike in the morning and then he works in the afternoon. So that's why he turned off now and was already setting up camp, and I basically just started for the day. Well, I'm a pretty late starter anyway, but I've ridden about 40 kilometers now. And he also told me yesterday, when he was taking the ferry that I talked about yesterday, that I skipped out on, that he was standing around there for a couple of hours before someone helped him, and I don't know really how they had to drive him around or something. And another guy he spoke to from France, which I think it was the guy that I met in Monio. He had been waiting in the town of Lainio for a day before he realized that the ferry wasn't gonna be working. So it seems to be a bit early for the ferry now here in beginning of June. So there's nice that there is a shorter way to take if the ferry doesn't work, but sadly there isn't any information online on operating times for the ferry, so it can be a bit of a gamble to go to Lainio and take the ferry. Well, as soon as you hit gravel, what also comes along is all the climbs. Going on the paved roads are usually a lot flatter, so now directly when I enter this gravel section, I have two major climbs here ahead of me, and I've also had a pretty nasty headwind for this day here, so it's quite slow going at the moment, but I'm guessing it's gonna lighten up further along here in the afternoon, hopefully. Here in Sweden there are a lot of these red poles all along the roads, and these are to mark where the road ends when they plow the cars in the winter time, so that the truck or tractor doesn't drive off the road when it's trying to maintain the road. And usually they take them down during summer, but
at these more remote parts of Sweden, they might as well just leave them up all year long, right? Summer is only like 3 months. Well, I think we're starting up an old tradition again here. Let's do the pronunciation quiz again. So let's all together try to pronounce the name of this little town here. No guess, right? Well, this one is called Kääntejärvi. And the funny thing about these types of names is that these aren't really in Swedish. In Sweden we have, I think we have like 4 official languages: Swedish, Finnish, Sápmi, that's the Sami language, and this language I believe is Meänkieli. And Meänkieli is a very local language in this region where I'm cycling right now. And nowadays, I don't know, but I'm guessing there are only maybe perhaps like 50,000 or 100,000 people that speaks Meänkieli. But they're trying to make it into that the schools can teach out Meänkieli again in this region. So hopefully it will be a more spoken language here in the north of Sweden again. But on Swedish government-owned TV, they actually have news in Meänkieli and Sápmi nowadays. Those were traditional Swedish red houses with white corners. That's the norm of Swedish houses here, and I know I've told this story many times before, and I also told it to Ryan when I was riding with him last year. But the reason why there are so many red houses here in Sweden is because of our copper mining industry. So the red paint was actually taken from residue from the copper mining, and that's why a lot of people chose that color, because it was a lot cheaper than other colors. So usually in a town, if someone painted their house white or another color, they were the rich people, and the working class people painted it with Falu red, as it's called. And most of the copper mining is done in the region of Dalarna, which is a lot south from here, but some copper mining is also done up here. In fact, the mining company I work for has their own mines up in this region, and maybe later on today we're gonna pass through a little ghost town called Masungsbyn, where the first mine here in the north was established back in the 17th century. I gotta say, I really dig these kind of gravel roads. Hard packed, very super smooth, gravel, and it's almost as you can maintain the same speed as you can on the paved roads, but with no traffic at all. Plus they aren't as flat and straight as the paved roads, so it's a bit more fun to ride on these types of roads than the paved ones, and they also get you a lot closer to nature as well. And as you can see, they're doing a lot of forestry around here, and as you ride through these areas you can smell the smell of newly cut down trees. Oh, it's a lovely smell, and the people around here call it the smell of money. We got that beep is the sign of it's time for a big climb again. We have a pretty major one coming up here. It's 2.7 kilometers long and 139 meters in elevation, so buckle up. I think it's time for lunch. Just found the first wind shelter or picnic table of the day, so might as well take a lunch break here in Niilijoki. The tricky part is always being able to get down to the water and fetch some water, but I think I'm able this time. There's a small path leading down to the stream here, so well, lunch might be pushing it a bit. I just checked my phone and it's almost 4 p.m. So the days are getting later and later for every day on this bikepacking trip. But since the sun is basically out all day and night, times are pretty irrelevant around here. The only time I need to make a certain time is when I want to visit a supermarket in their opening hours, and there are no more supermarkets today, so I'm in no hurry at all. I'll probably just end up eating my dinner at my campsite tonight anyway. So, and while I sit here and eat and wait for my food to get done, I also charge my bike computer here in the sun, and it's constantly charging while I'm riding, but when I'm sitting down like this I can angle it towards the sun and it gets a little bit more boost. So I've noticed with this one that I can go pretty much for 4 or 5 days without charging it. I haven't charged it since I started back in Norway 5 days ago, so but I'm guessing tonight I'll have to give it some boost from my power bank. Let's see if this curry is done. I'm currently on the biggest climb of the day. It's about 170 meters in height difference, and have about a third left here. Whew, I think once I'm up on this hill, this is the highest point I've been on the journey so far here. About a kilometer left to go. About 3 weeks ago I went down to Greece with the family for a family vacation, and the hotel arranged morning rides there, which was perfect. I went on maybe 3 or 4 of those in the morning, and the hills down in Greece are way worse than these ones, so I used that as a sort of a training camp for this trip, because where I live there aren't that many hills, so it was perfect to get a couple of days of hill training before going on this adventure. This trail is a bit interesting. It's probably the most technical trail thus far on the EDT. I think it's basically a hiking trail of some sort. Whew. This road was a bit uneven. Check out the tracks here. I'm guessing someone has been driving here when it's been really rainy, or perhaps after the snow melted a couple of weeks ago. Don't want to find myself on these types of roads after a heavy thunderstorm. They can be pretty soft. So we're about to cross the E10 highway. It's believed to be the most accidentally prone highway here in Sweden, mostly due to all the reindeer accidents. I never like cycling on the E10 because there are a lot of heavy trucks that go on it with iron ore and timber and so on, but luckily enough we're just on it for a couple of 100 meters, then we turn off again to a much smaller road here. Kids, never go cycling on the E10. Well, it's 8:30 and I've started looking for a suitable camp spot for tonight, and I like to camp at lakes, so every time I pass a lake I try to look for a nice spot and so on. And then I just passed this lake to my left here, and look what I see on the other side. The problem is just how do I get over there? Might be a trail or something. Won't be that far on that side. Might be worth a look. See if I can be able to get there. It might be a bit tricky with the bike though. There's some sort of path that goes in here. See if I can just walk with my bike over there or something. Or maybe ride for a while at least. So here's what I'll do. I'll take a little hike, left the bike there, and go and check it out. It's definitely a lot of mosquitoes here as well, so I took my rain pants on. Just gonna go over and see if there's any flat space for the tent. Looked like a nice shelter to sit down and have your dinner in. But then again we have the mosquito issue. But luckily I have my thermosol with me, so I might pop that up. Yeah, this will have to do. Just need to find a flat spot somewhere. It's a bit tilting here. I think this might serve as my sort of flat spot for the evening. Search is over. Let's go get the bike over here. I'm guessing it's about 150 meters or so, and the trail isn't that great, but I've done worse than this. And another great thing about this particular campsite is that it's pretty close. I think it's maybe half an hour away from the next town with a supermarket, so I'll be able to eat breakfast there tomorrow and maybe charge battery or so. So it will be like this morning. Oh, let's try to drag the bike over there. I hate when they throw stuff around and people can't behave themselves. Oh. So the first order of business now is to get the water cooking for my dinner, which tonight consists of kebab stew. I'm gonna fire up the thermocell pretty quickly here, so let's make some water first and then I can get the thermocell going when I enjoy my dinner, because this place, can you just look, there are quite a few mosquitoes here. And many of you might wonder, why doesn't he wear mosquito repellent? Well, I can just assure you that no mosquito repellent in the world would scare these mosquitoes away right now. They might scare one or two, but not all of them. The thermocell works a lot better, and I know there's a big debate on whether to use a thermocell or not, but I'm just gonna use it for maybe 15 minutes while I eat my dinner, and then not so much. And a fun fact about mosquitoes is that there are at least 100 different species, and the one who is active mostly now, the first, like the spring season mosquito, they're pretty dumb, so they just go all over the place. Yesterday when I got maybe 20 of them inside of my tent, none of them wanted to bite me, they just flew around for a while, and then all of the mosquitoes sort of gather up in the roof of the inner tent and flew around there for most of the night. So they're not as aggressive as the mosquitoes that are active later in the season. I'm looking like the dark Sith from Star Wars right now. But as I said, I'd rather dress for the mosquitoes than use mosquito repellent when I don't have access to a shower. Well, the water is just about done, so I can maybe go look for my thermocell in the meantime. And speaking of stupid mosquitoes, one thought it was fittingly to take a swim in my boiling water here, but quickly realized his mistake. Finally I can sit down and enjoy my dinner. I'm having a kebab with rice today, and it tastes deliciously right now. Most of the mosquitoes have gone away. There are like one or two flying around here, but I can live with one or two. So today was a fun day here on the trails, and the highlight of the day was meeting Jan from Germany, and I rode with him for about 30 kilometers or so. I didn't film that much, except for when just meeting him I just shoved my camera up in his face, so he was quite surprised, I guess. But he was a truly nice guy to talk to, and we had a lot of common things. We both have 3 children, and he's about the same age as me, and he thought this adventure was fantastic so far. For me, living here, some of the parts can be a bit, what do you say, monotonous, or not boring, but you get the drift. But he said he loved every single part. It's quite unique for a guy living in busy Germany to come up here and don't hear a car or anything, just the birds around you, and of course the mosquitoes. But I'm quite surprised with the European Divide Trail so far, that it's so varied. I thought it was just gonna be these very small gravel roads with big like pebbles. I was quite worried about that, but so far it has been very Very nice. And I think though that as farther south you get, there are going to be more and more gravel, because here there are parts where you basically can't really choose between different roads. There's basically just one to go on, so that's why there have been a lot of paved roads so far, especially up in Finland. But I think that will improve as we go along here. And my favorite are either the ones with very nice, smooth, hard-packed gravel that almost feel like it's paved, but you know, with no cars, or to have a bit of those like flowy, not single track, but like double track roads. Those are super fun as well, but I like to keep those to about an hour at a time, because it gets quite tough after a while, especially on the uphills. They're quite tough. Especially as you saw earlier today, I was riding through a section with these very distinct tire marks where the cars had sunken like 20 centimeters down into the surface. Those ones were pretty gruesome to go on. Even though they were pretty dry now, you can like feel like the tire was like sinking into the ground. So I wouldn't want to go on those when it has been raining. So tomorrow I'll first stop by the supermarket that is about half an hour away from here, and then I'll head on towards Jokkmokk. And Jokkmokk is a very important town for the Sami people living around here. It's well known for its marketplace during February, I think it is, where people travel from basically all over the world to get to Jokkmokk and experience the Jokkmokk market. But it is also a way to get back to civilization, and they both have like 2 supermarkets, a gas station, and the best thing of all, they have a Systembolaget. That's the government-owned liquor store that we have here in Sweden. So I might pop in there and get a very small bottle of red wine to have on the last or second to last evening here. In a couple of days it's Sweden's National Day, so I'll have to celebrate that at least. This was a pretty nice end to yet another great day here on the European Divide Trail. So I hope you'll join me next time when I head down to Jokkmokk, and we'll also pass the Arctic Circle tomorrow, I think. So join me next time when I pass the Arctic Circle, and if you can't wait for next week's video, you can watch when I visited that place a couple of years ago. I think it's like 5 or 6 years ago. I passed the Arctic Circle sign, and you can watch that video by clicking the link up in the corner here. Otherwise, until next time, have a good one.